There's 2 rounds to go in Norway Chess, and going into the 9th round out of 10, Magnus Carslen is winning the tournament. Shocker. We could just end the video right now. And Alireza Firouzja is right there in 2nd place, 1 point away from Magnus. And the way fate would have it, they have to play a classical game in round number 9. Alireza Firouzja has the white pieces. If he wins this game, he gets 3 points and overtakes Magnus in the standings. If Magnus wins this game, he actually clinches 1st place with a round to go. Let's see what happens. Obviously, these two guys have a history. The drama at the World Rapid and Blitz last year. There's a video of that on YouTube. And, you know, Banter Blitz series. And also earlier in this tournament, Magnus flagged Firouzja in an endgame and Firouzja slammed the table. So knight f3, and we don't have to analyze crazy right now, but this is already a bit of a surprise. Knight f6, g3, c5. Alireza doing what you do if you're going to play the ready. Does this. Magnus goes for e5. Now, this is already a bit unique. Normally you go with queen's pawn, because this lets Alireza play e4 and turn this into a King's Indian attack, or King's Indian defense structure. The point here is that if black was to take on e4, this just would be way too dangerous. So first of all, I can already just take here, and if this, then this, and I mean, white is already just doing fine, but more than anything else, it's the move rook e1. It's the fact that you're going to get butchered on the e-file. And even though you can hang on, I'm going to go d3, and I'm just very happy. So, instead of that, we get d6, and Alireza goes for a very quick central expansion. So as early as move 6, we have like a novel position. This has never happened before. And d takes e5. Actually, up until this moment, they were following one game that went d5. And I think what Alireza wanted to do here with getting the queen trade and the trade of pieces is to be as solid as possible. And I think he just welcomed trades. As you can see, Alireza plays basically a zero-risk approach. He plays extremely solidly, and well, I mean, what move is this? Move 16? Deathly equal, right? Deathly equal. Symmetrical pawn structure. One's got a knight in the center. Other guy's going to get a knight in the center. And I think Alireza just basically wanted to win this in the Armageddon. Let's see if he got there. So knight d5, rook d6, rook c1, bishop d8. Rook d1 and king g7. Alright, so far so good, but Magnus finding a way. Puts his bishop back here. Rook is solid on d6. Rook is going to go here and maybe hit the a2 pawn. Spoiler, I saw the game, so a3, h5. So interesting idea here from Magnus. He's trying to utilize some of the dark squares over on the king side, potentially break with h4, instigate and make Alireza have certain weaknesses here. So knight c4, bishop f6. And Alireza's logic is that he's going to counterattack Magnus on the e5 square and try to fight for the center, maybe dislodge this knight. More than anything else, though, kind of just like try to survive. So h4 closes the position. Rook c8, knight e3. So he tries to route his knight to d5. But Magnus trades off one rook, not two. Notice what he does. Magnus puts a rook like this to continue to maintain control of the file, and then reroutes his bishop back, puts his rook forward, and says, well, what's missing? Oh yeah, my pawns. My pawns are missing. b5 and a5. Now we get rook d3, a4, and bishop b6. He's just masterful, just playing on Firouzja's uncertainty. And it's important to note here that Firouzja was down an hour on the clock. An hour. Like 10 minutes to a minute and 10. Something completely insane. 10 minutes to an hour and 10, not a minute and 10. So rook c3, he goes for the trade. And by force here, Magnus basically wins material. He forces in his pieces. Bishop b3 is impossible because the pawn just promotes. And plays knight c1, knight d3, wins a pawn. The problem is, this leads to an opposite colored bishop endgame where white has equal access to the pawns. And you'll notice that Alireza defends, then all the pawns on that side get traded, and we have a 4-on-3. We're heading to Armageddon. So bishop d4, g4, take. Alireza gets another pawn off the board. He's happy. 3-on-2, and even with 2 minutes on the clock, this is an endgame that he will obviously hold. Knight f2 check, king back to f3, king h6, and Alireza comes up with a very nice idea here, maintaining vision of the pawn. So knight f4, defending it, now knight e2, offering a trade. I mean, this is a smart trade. Opposite colored bishops, this is going to be a draw, so Magnus keeps the knight on the board, bishop f7, and knight c5. Now, he could have gone to d8. The thing about one-move attacks in endgames is that if white plays bishop d5, suddenly your knight's completely paralyzed. And I would just be very careful to avoid one-move attacks in endgames. Now, black could go king h5 here and prolong the game, but normally, you know, you don't want to end up with a piece totally dominated like this. So knight g3, bishop c3, and h5. Alireza goes for the trade, and Magnus forces him to trade like this and brings in his knight. And the thing is that now one of these pawns will be lost. This knight will come back somehow, win one of the pawns. Let's see what happens. All right, it's happening. The knight's on f4, knight g5, knight h5, take, king h3. Okay, so players didn't just shake hands and agree to a draw here. If black continues to shuffle here, this is just a draw. And if black plays f5, this is also a draw. Now, I'm not going to go into a whole endgame lesson of king and pawn versus king, but a general rule of thumb is if the pawn is next to the king and you're kind of in the middle of the board, it's a draw. Now, you need the king in front of the pawn somehow, where this king would be forced to kind of give way to the pawn. This is not a situation where such a thing is possible. And so Magnus goes backwards, and Alireza goes forwards, and Magnus goes backwards, and Alireza can't continue to go forward because he's going to get opposition. This is a very important word here, opposition. And now you're going to have to give way to the enemy king. So if here, then here, if here, then here, and so on. And, you know, if king to h4, now this is winning because, as I said, you know, the king needs to be in front of the other king. And it's not. The king's going to go out there and the pawn's going to promote. So, king g7, king g3, keeping a distant opposition. King f8, king f2. Again, king is going to try to come this way, so we need to meet the king to prevent access. King e7, king e2, king e8, king e3, king d7, king d3. All good. So far, so good. Again, you need the black king to land on that square, and you need to go there, and it will be black's move. So Magnus plays king d6, and Alireza Firouzja plays basically the only losing move, and after king c5, resigns the game. Yeah, that's what happened. I'm not joking. That's actually what happened. And it's losing because now you're opposed, and anywhere you go, the king comes forward. So if king here, obviously I get to your pawn. The difference is I just shoulder your king away, you will lose that pawn, and you will lose the game. Now, instead of king to c3, in this position, the only drawing move is, again, you need to end up on that square when that king comes there. Now, you have to go king d2. King c2 loses in a pretty miraculous way. Basically, the fact that you've moved over one flank means that the king can now beat you on a race around the pawns. It's crazy. So again, you're looking for this, but the king now goes here, 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 and here. Not here, which would result in opposition, but here. So that if you come here, now I oppose you. And you have to give way to my king. King and pawn endgames are annoying, okay? They're annoying, you know, you need to learn them, but we see that even Alireza Firouzja, granted in a huge time trouble, threw it away. Now, that means that Magnus Carslen wins the Norway Chess 2020. He wins another $73,000. Don't click off the video just yet. There's a lot more nonsense that's going to await us. I promise to make this entertaining. But yeah, rough day for Alireza, who apparently was shaking. So it seems as though he's got some nerves issues to deal with, especially as they pertain to Magnus. Aryan Tari versus Levon Aronian was a Caro-Kann, which everybody expected, except not at all. So we got an exchange Caro-Kann, Now h3. Earlier in the tournament, he played like this, and Alireza played this move. And then as early as the 6th move of the game, 7th move of the game, we have a position that's never been reached. Now, Levon plays a move which literally just, I mean, this move just doesn't make any sense to me. I honestly have no idea why you wouldn't play knight c6, but Levon obviously knows something that I don't. And then Levon just puts this little corral of pawns around his bishop. And here, Levon Aronian very naturally continues his development with the move g5. Just giving up a pawn for the open g-file. Don't run this game through an engine because it's going to tell you that Levon Aronian, you know, smoked something before this game. But it's a very practical and interesting idea. And here Levon comes up with a brilliancy. He comes up with e5. It looks brilliant. Sacrificing another pawn to transfer his queen over. Here there was a ridiculous engine line. You can play bishop e7, dislodging the defender from the f2 square, and if bishop takes e7, you have queen takes f2. You also have knight takes f2, and then after rook f2, you can go here. But then there's bishop g5, protected by the knight, disconnecting the queen and the rook from attacking you. If you play h6, white has the just unbelievable defensive resource queen to d4. Now if take bishop, you lose your queen, and if you take, and rook takes g5, h4 dislodges the defense of the bishop, and you can't go here because I mean, engines are just insane. But Levon plays queen g6 and is down just 2 pawns. Just down 2 pawns. But here, Tari misses an incredible idea right here. He misses an incredible idea, very naturally moves his knight back to h2, but he has the unbelievable move e6. If pawn takes f3, you take the knight with check, so that's not so bad. But if pawn takes e6, now you go back this way, and the queen has been disconnected because the pawn is in the way, so you'll go knight c4, bishop h5 check, and you're just winning. If the bishop takes on e6, then you go knight d2, and this pawn is under attack, so then if black goes like f5, again you have bishop to h5, and you're crushing. And last but not least, if the queen takes on e6, now you have bishop c4 with a new target. If queen moves, I don't know, let's say to g6, then once again, you can go knight d2, but you can also just go rook d1, because there's a pin. You don't actually need to move the knight. So rook d1, and then knight d4, and you're apparently winning. But Tari, you know, losing enough games will kind of make you question yourself, and instead, he kind of, over the course of 6 to 7 moves, just got it into an endgame. Again, if you're confused, he just retreated his pieces toward his king. Levon sacked the rook, but then got it back. And the players just traded down, and Levon was just down a clean pawn. But Aryan wasn't able to win. I mean, Levon just defended, and Tari just couldn't crack the code. Like, Levon just put his king to safety, consolidated with his queen, put his rook and queen on good files, and then trades more pieces. Trades the bishop, offers a trade of queens with queen to c5. Just very good defense. And I mean, Tari extremely hesitant. And losing games will do that to you, but it just sucks to see because he had a chance there where he could have, you know, he could have won the game. And so they get into a rook endgame and it's just a draw. Let's see what happens in their Armageddon game. So we get a Scotch. Great opening. This system with e5, queen e7, queen e2, knight d5, h4. Whole point of h4 is to play bishop g5 and then sometimes to bring in this rook and sometimes to play g3 and just develop the bishop. Well, this time we have this development and this structure with the bishop coming out. You might say this looks weird and I don't disagree with you. Grandmasters get to invent all their own crap. So castles, bishop a6 and rook e1, rook e8. Knight e4, bishop d4. Fantastic. Knight comes to e4, hit the bishop, bishop moves out of the way. And here, Aryan Tari decides, you know what, I've had just about enough of getting bullied by this guy, I'm gonna throw a punch. Knight f6 check. Okay, queen g4 and get the bishop. So looks like we sacrificed 2 pawns. All right, this is good. We've got a direct attack on the king. So now we're gonna go bishop h6, rook g8. We're gonna trick bishop with bishop g5. If f6, we have the glorious rook takes e5. If pawn takes, we take the queen. If queen takes, we take with check. And it's X-ray defense, and we're going to win a queen here, right? Right? No. Aryan plays b3. Goes for some stuff on the queen side. Levon just consolidates very solidly. Aryan's just down 2 pawns. Levon starts his own attack. Aryan loses a piece. And Aryan resigns because the unstoppable, rare in the wild quadruple fork is about to happen. Have you guys ever seen that? A quadruple fork? Man, I felt bad. When knight f6 happened, it looked like a guy standing up to his bully. And then he just loses in the Armageddon. Well, credit to Levon for an interesting day and a beautiful set of shirts. Highly recommend you guys go check out his wardrobe. Well, not like his actual wardrobe, because then you'd be breaking into his house. But on Twitter, they post a lot of pictures of the players, and man, he's got some amazing shirts. The final matchup of the day was between Jan-Krzysztof Duda with the white pieces and Fabiano Caruana with the black pieces. This one was a Sicilian Taimanov, which goes knight c6, queen c7, a6. But Duda didn't do the fun stuff. With g4 and long castle, he took and played this weird queen move. And then he played some queenside shenanigans where he brought in his rook, but Caruana defended and brought back his pieces and mobilized on the queen side. And then, I mean, you got to be a super GM to play like this. Look at this. Knight d7. Watch. Knight d7, okay? Bishop back to f1. Rook comes to c8. g3. Queen d8. h4. And queen f8. Like, this is some crazy stuff. This is why you and me are never going to be GMs. Or I don't know. If you're a grandmaster watching, I don't know what the hell you're doing watching. But puts his queen out of the action to just maintain control of this diagonal. Dude is doing some stuff over here. As I swear, it's like two kids playing on the opposite end of a sandbox. You know, they're just not interacting. Knight c5. All right, finally they're interacting. A trade of rooks is coming. It happens. Some maneuvering here. The game got really interesting right here when Fabi voluntarily did this ugly thing to his structure, and now Duda ran his king over there and has to start bringing it back this way. Yeah. But really, this game was exciting for one move, and it was right here when Fabi sacked the rook. And is threatening bishop g4 check with the queen coming in, like to one of these 2 squares. And that would be serious problem, except that Duda finds the best move. He sacrifices his own rook to get it into a queen knight in 4 versus queen bishop in 4 endgame. And, well, they traded pawns, and then Fabiano's queen and Duda's king played a little bit of, tag. Or whatever. I don't know. But watch. Watch white's king. King c5. King b4. King c3. King b4, king c5, king d4, king d3, king c3, king 8, king d4, king d3, king d4, king c5, and the players finally decided to repeat moves. And the reason why this game is a draw is that this dark squared formation is just indestructible. You have a light squared bishop for Fabi, which is protecting the king, and this knight, oops, sorry, and this knight cannot actually come forward. All right, time for an Armageddon. The last game of the day. All right, Jan-Krzysztof, what do you got for me, baby? Let me see. Knight f3, d5. Okay. All right. This kind of reverse. If you've missed my video on this, my video is called "The Best Game I Ever Played." I'll link it at the end of the video. But it all started like this, and in that game, I played the crazy move g5. Fabiano plays c5, gambiting a pawn to kind of put a clamp on the center. Well, you know, it's not every day that one can get a better position on move 4. But bc5 is a terrible move. Like, no disrespect to Jan-Krzysztof, but the whole point is you're not supposed to do this. You're supposed to play, like, e3 or queen a4 check. Because if queen a4, bishop d7, there's b5, and at least, like, you know, you take away c6. But, and then, you know, you can play, like, knight e5 in the future. But I don't understand. Like, he just gave his opponent the entire center. And is just worse. He's just worse here because Fabiano has this clamp with the knights. He has more space on this side of the board. And he's just much worse on, like, the 15th move of the game. So Duda transfers his queen out there. And at this point, Duda also has no time advantage. And then Fabi just says, all right. Look, I've had just about enough. Bishop to e4. Let's get you out of here. Let's get you out of here. All right. Knight g2. This knight wants to come back into the game. How do we stop that? Of course. g5. Now this knight can't move forward. Now this knight can't move forward. Rook d3. All right, let's get this knight out. Rook d2. Knight e4. White can't even repeat because it's Armageddon, which would lose. So he plays rook d3. Now d3. Oh, God. I mean, I just don't even... You can't take, because the rook. You can't take with the pawn, because if you take with the pawn, I play queen takes f3, and you can't take because you would lose a queen. So rook b2, and now the next knight comes in, and you can't take because I go here. And then I have king h1. This is just hanging. I mean, it's just bad. It's just all so bad. Actually, wait. That's not hanging, because the rook would be hanging. I guess you just go knight c5. Or knight takes g3. It's just so bad. All of it is... Oh my god. Knight e3. I mean, the horsies are having a convention, but what? Just d takes e2. And this knight has no guard. It can't even go here. Because this is mate. So we get knight g4... and knight takes f2. And Duda resigns because if he were to take back here, Fabi would just play knight takes rook. And okay, I'm getting sad just looking at this game again. Look, the point is that Magnus Carslen defeats Alireza Firouzja again in an absolutely ridiculous game. I mean, just ridiculous. I don't know what to say. I don't know what, like, when do you think Alireza is going to beat Magnus Carslen? That's my question to you guys. Feel free to write anything else that you'd like in the comments below. Tell me something funny. Tell me how your week is going. And big news is that in the next video, I will be having a brand new camera. I hope. I hope I don't jinx it. Okay. Bye.